Sure, what's this about, brother?
We got a situation up in Delaware that's crazy right now, brother. Brothers are being lynched.
Oh, lynched? In 2012?
That's the same exact thing we said when we got the story.
So how'd you hear about it?
That's a good question. You know, there was a professor who was at Delaware State University named Dr. Jahi Issa. And to make a long story short, he was doing some research and educating the students on how they're trying to destroy and demolish HBCUs.
Oh, I went to Bowie State.
I went to Hampton University, so you know how the students were responding to that. And in the midst of sharing this information with the students, he stumbled upon the fact that they were actually lynching brothers in Dover, Delaware.
How come I didn't hear about this on CNN?
You didn't hear about it on CNN because this is an election year. Do you know who the state's attorney is for the state of Delaware?
Who would that be?
That would be Bo Biden. Bo Biden is the Vice President Joe Biden's son. So as you can see, this is an extremely political situation.
Understood. So what do you have to do with this?
We represent an organization called War on the Horizon. And what we do is we educate black people to the threat of white supremacy and teach our people how we can prepare for black survival.
No doubt. Much needed. Definitely going to check this out. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you, bro. Be safe out there, all right?
All right, got it.
Peace and welcome to the Message to the Black Fam show here on War on the Horizon. I am your host, Sister Lady Shabazz. And you know what? I'm really trying to figure something out right now because I've been going as Lady Shabazz for years and everybody knows me as Lady Shabazz. But I'm wondering, should I drop that name? I'm going to need y'all input tonight when you call in. Because I just was Googling Lady Shabazz just to see what was going to come up a couple weeks ago. And discovered that, like everything else, my name has been corrupted by faggotism. I Googled Lady Shabazz, and some dude dressed as Beyonce doing some single ladies dance popped up, and his name is Lady Shabazz. So I do not want to get confused with the Lady Shabazz in Atlanta, Georgia, because this Lady Shabazz on War on the Horizon was born with her parts, and the one in Atlanta, if he has them, bought them. So I don't want that confusion necessarily. So I'm trying to decide, should I be Sister Shabazz? Should I keep Lady Shabazz and claim it as mine, since shouldn't no transvestite be using a Muslim name anyway? I don't know. Y'all let me know. That's my dilemma right now. So anyway, as of now, I am your host, Sister Lady Shabazz, until I determine otherwise. So today's show is going to be very interesting. I'm going to rely on everybody to call in because usually, I like to have guests. I don't like to sit here and run my mouth for 2 hours straight. So I'm definitely going to want people to call in today and let me know their opinion. The original program that I had scheduled was perfect for Valentine's Day. It was going to be on love and warfare. And I got that idea from a good brother of mine, Brother Omawali. We had to reschedule that, but it is coming because that's going to be an excellent show, and we do definitely have to deal with that. So definitely going to hit that up. But I do just want to send a shout out to Brother Omawali because he has helped me so much. If you guys are not aware, I just finished my first book called God's Gift. And it's actually done. It's, we're basically just waiting on it to be shipped right now. So you will be seeing that on War on the Horizon very, very soon. It's at the printers now, just waiting on them to arrive. So the book is done. But when I finished the book, I knew it needed maybe a masculine touch to kind of balance it out a little bit. So I always have an army of good brothers I can call whenever I need something. I'd asked my husband to write a foreword, but he's not really the writing type, and I could tell he was like not really wanting to do it. So I said, "Don't worry about it, babe. I'll get somebody to do it." And he was very, very relieved. So I think he'd like to thank Omawali too. But I called Omawali and asked him to write like a foreword for the book, and he did it. No questions asked. He gave me the foreword to the book. He gave me some unreleased lyrics to one of his songs that fit the book very well, a song called Compliment. So if you are a United Front fan, and you enjoy that, you'll want to get that book so you can kind of see what may be coming up in the future. That could be a song that gets released later on. And the best thing about this brother is in the midst of him writing the foreword, he actually had some computer issues. This brother was so dedicated, he wrote the whole foreword on his cell phone. That is dedication. I probably wouldn't have did it. I would have been like, sorry, I'm out. Brother wrote it for me on his cell phone, and the only thing he asked in return is for some munchies. I can do that. So I definitely just want to thank Omawali. We will definitely be rescheduling his show very shortly, and we're going to be bringing on Brother Bomani in the near future as well, because we just had Brother True on a little while ago, and once I have one on, I have to have them all. That's how it works around here. This is not just my show, this is their show too. So be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout definitely for my book in the next couple of weeks. Did want to make an announcement. I believe it was my last program, I had Keith Young on the show, and he was talking about the African origins of superheroes. If you are in the Detroit area, he is actually going to be doing a lecture on the 20th at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe in Highland Park. It's from 6 to 8. It's free. Donations are accepted, but all the lectures that I know about that he does are usually free. So it'll be a good time. You can go on in and learn a little bit about yourself. The topic is going to be Black to the Future, returning to the past to save the future. So that's definitely going to be worth stopping by. You can come in, meet me, and I don't know if I have the books by then, you can just buy one while we're there. Save yourself the time and effort of getting it shipped to you. So definitely tune in to see that. Come to the lecture and see that. I'm mentioning Keith because he was really instrumental. I went to one of his lectures a while ago, and one thing that he was saying is that you should write down everything. It's an effective way to remember things because you'll usually forget all of your ideas if you don't remember. And you never know when you're going to find material for new projects. So any kind of dreams you have, any thoughts you have, any ideas you have, always write them down or do a voice note or whatever. And I'm glad that I listened to him when he told me that because it has been so helpful. I've actually been able to write books very quickly just based on notes. I've been able to do all kinds of things, and tonight's it's actually helping me with my program because I knew that I had to reschedule the other one, and I'm like, well, what else can I do to ruin Valentine's Day? I have to do something to ruin Valentine's Day. So I decided to refer back to some notes that I took while I was writing my book. Again, the book's name is God's Gift, but I took some notes while I was writing it called God's Curse. And I wrote it on something that I call Black Widowism. And I actually kind of stole that and morphed it from a Irritated Genie lecture. But we don't need to give that brother no credit. Whatever. It's mine. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to be referring to my notes a lot as I go through because there were things that I noticed just in personal interactions or sometimes on Facebook or sometimes as a reaction to people as I was telling them about the book I was writing. And it really creeps in there. Sometimes it's hard to see. You may see some of these traits in yourself. Brothers, you may see some traits in women you may be trying to talk to. And something just to make you reevaluate yourself or reevaluate if that's the person you want to be with, to make some changes. Because that whole feminist theology kind of just creeps in. Can be very subtle sometimes, but it's there and it needs to be addressed. So I am going to just refer to my notes and just take it from there tonight, see how the program goes. But as I said, I am relying on you guys to call in and help me out tonight because I don't feel like running my mouth that long. That's just not me. I'm not the most talkative person. Don't ask me why I got a radio show. Because I talk more on Jeannie's show probably than I do on my own. I do want to start by saying that this whole topic is only a problem, and it's only evolved as a problem because of the lack of black male protection and because of their apathy in regards to forcefully taking their power back. And I've got to balance it out because this problem wouldn't exist if black men got their stuff together. It wouldn't exist at all. A lot of times I hear black men saying, oh, she won't let me be a man. Can't nobody stop you from being a man. If you're looking for permission to be a man, then you got some work to do. Manhood, and I'm not a man, I can't really speak on it, but when I think of manhood, I think of something that does not require permission, does not require being polite. It's something you just do. That's your birthright. You are a man, you are the head, you are the leader, and nobody's going to stop you from doing that. We had some issues during our enslavement that made it pretty much impossible to do that, but now that we are quote unquote free, supposedly, black men have to start standing up and taking their position back and not asking permission to do that, not being apologetic about it, just doing it. Because the sooner you guys take control of your families and your communities, the sooner we can get back into our role. And I don't mean do that in an evil kind of abusive kind of way, but in a very balanced way, but knowing that you are the leader, you are the head. If you do that and do it in a very balanced way, this whole Black Widowism will cease to exist because we will have somebody to look up to and we won't feel like you are our enemies and we need to fight with you constantly. All right. My notes say, I am putting the term feminism to rest in regards to black women. Let's call it what it is, Black Widowism. White women are feminists. They fight their men, but will join together strategically with their men whenever white supremacy is in jeopardy. That's what a feminist does, because a feminist wants to be on top and she's wise and calculating with it. She's not going to lose her white supremacy, because that already puts her on top. So if it's between taking a backseat for a minute to keep her position or not, she's going to do it. That's something that Black women could learn from. Not that we need to indulge in that at all, but Black women are not strategic when they display these so-called feminist attitudes. Instead, we're just destructive, totally destructive. The Black woman goes into a take no prisoner type style war with her man. The war with her man takes precedence over everything else, especially the health of the Black community and her future children. Nothing stops a Black Widowist. It's not like a feminist where she's strategic and she can be at peace with her man when necessary. We don't care if we put the whole race in jeopardy. Doesn't matter. We're going to do what we need to do just to be in opposition to our men. And the end result of these Black feminists or Black widowists is that her son and her mates basically get eaten alive. So that's why I said the Black Widowist is a more appropriate title, again, inspired by the irritated genie, because that's the difference. A feminist is calculating. A Black Widowist is just all around destructive to her people. About the only people she's not destructive to are white people. But it's because of the Black Widowist that we see our sons having so many problems, men having so many problems. Not that that's the only reason, but it plays a major part because we're the ones raising the children. We're the ones who are supposed to be nurturing our men, and we've pretty much given up on that. And instead, we decided that we want to become the one who destroys him even more in a lot of situations. The Black woman is operating from a position of extreme pain, defensiveness, immaturity, insecurity, and ignorance. And that creates a feeling of helplessness about her life. So she's kind of in a panic mode. She's struggling. You know, she doesn't want to go down. It's almost like they say if somebody's drowning, you have to be very careful when you go to save them because they're in such a panic mode that they could panic and take you down under with them. That's pretty much what we're doing. We don't know where to go. We've been so brainwashed, so confused, and told so many different things, as well as suffering abuse from our men a lot of times. We don't know which way is up and which way is down. So we don't know the appropriate way to behave. Black widows have no understanding of healthy, positive relationships. So she's never able to maintain one. We all know the woman who cannot maintain a relationship to save her life. She also doesn't grasp the concept of becoming one. That's something that we're going to talk about a little bit later. It's always an independent thing. It's never wanting to be independent. It's never being able to trust a man. It's always being at odds in a man and making sure that she's not a victim, because usually she's been victimized and she doesn't want to be a victim again. She feels that her perverted reality is in fact everyone's reality, so they constantly inject their venomous perspectives into healthy victims. We see that a lot. You see one woman who is just preaching some retarded stuff, and all these innocent people who don't know better look at her like she is just God, like she is so wise, and end up falling for the same stuff, and then these innocent people end up not being able to keep a man either. Before they could keep a man, no problem, got along in peace. They listen to one of these crazy women. Now all of a sudden, their relationships last about 2 weeks. Same thing. The Black widow usually has the loudest voice in various circles. That doesn't mean that she's necessarily loud or abrasive. Sometimes she can be very soft-spoken, but for some reason, people tend to listen to her more. So she has more influence a lot of times than the woman who is doing the right thing. She can be very charming. Like I said, she doesn't have to be or appear to be this dominating person. She can be very charming and hide her widowistic philosophies. She could be involved in community activism. She could be a motivational speaker. She could even be somebody who pretends to like feminine duties. She could be a cook or a baker, but she still has that ideology going on behind the scenes. They're hiding in all parts of the conscious community and the Black community in general, but especially the conscious community. So we have to remain on the lookout for these people because they're poisoning the community. And really, I kind of think they've taken over the community. I heard my husband talking to one of his friends not too long ago, and he was talking about the conscious women and how hard they are to get along with in relationships. And one of them said, you know, sometimes you'll be talking to them, asking them to do something, and they'll be like, I ain't a Christian. And he'll be like, shoot, I wish you were. If you were, I could probably get along with you. So that obviously is a problem, because a lot of conscious women can't find men, and we wonder why. But at the same time, these brothers go out and get with these Christian type women or women with no knowledge, and then they wonder why their babies grow up to not have any knowledge. So it's really a lose-lose situation that we're in, and it's just a cycle. And we have to find a solution to it. Hopefully we can come up with some things tonight. A lot of women don't really realize when they're being feminist or having a feminist mindset. And that's just because that's what we're raised around. That's what has been made to seem normal. The older you are, the less this is true, but especially like the very young people now in their teens and 20s, they have been raised to think this is how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be at war. And even those of us in our 30s or 40s, this is what we saw on the TV. This is what we've heard in music. This is all that we know. So as you come into knowledge, that's one of the things that you have to clear out of your mind. It's not about your Black womanhood necessarily. It's about being Black. We'll deal with the Black woman issues after we deal with the Black issues, because as long as we are divided, we are not going to make progress. So some women, when you come at them with logic and you understand how devastating this Black widowism is, they'll listen and they'll try to change. But more likely than not, they're not going to be humble at all. They're just going to keep on doing what they're doing and probably cuss you out for even coming to them like that. That is the attitude of a Black widowist. Black widowists see the Black man as their oppressor. Because they feel like they've been victims in the past, as I said, they refuse to let anything go in their present relationship. They sweat the small stuff, they drain positive energy from the atmosphere, and they're really a drag to be around, because it's like you can't have a good time with them. They're looking for the next thing to complain about, the next thing to argue about, because they're always on the lookout for who's disrespecting me, who's not treating me right. I don't want to be a victim again. That's what's always in their mind. Nobody's going to victimize me. Nobody's going to disrespect me. And it goes way beyond what is healthy and way beyond what is socially acceptable, because they have this phobia of victimization. Widowists believe that masculinity and male ego is something that should be overcome. Sometimes they'll use the code words matured out of instead of appreciated as complimentary and necessary. Black widowists are really confused about the roles of men and women, and we'll discuss this more as we go along. The male ego is something that is needed in Black men. That's part of what they are born with. And it's part of what makes them healthy and what makes them masculine and what makes them able to protect us. We can't tell a man how to be a man and when his ego is appropriate and when it's not, unless it's something that's disrespecting or demeaning us. That's about the only time. We're not men, so we can't tell a man how to be a man. And your masculinity is not something that you should mature out of any more than our femininity is something that we should mature out of. I've heard men say, women are too emotional. You need to get over that. No, if you get over being emotional, now you might as well go be with another man. That's like homosexuality. It's the same thing. Now, we do have to be mature with how we carry ourselves and how we let that nature out. But that is our nature. Men are going to have an ego. Women are going to be emotional. That's okay. And that's something to be appreciated. Those differences are not opposites. They're complements. And even though we talk about complementarity, we really have not digested it. We really don't understand what that's about when we say things like, you need to mature out of your masculine characteristics. No, if they mature out of their masculine characteristics, we're going to end up with a bunch of fags like we have now who can't protect us, can't protect their own rectums, and we have chaos in the community. We don't need that. I love a man with a little bit of an ego. Sometimes, it can get a little overboard. You have to bring them back down to earth a little bit. But nothing is better than a strong Black man with healthy self-esteem and an oversized ego, at least slightly oversized ego. That's attractive, and it should be attractive to a healthy woman because that's very masculine. If it's not, then we start to have problems, start to have to ask some questions. Widowists avoid focusing strictly on the woman's role in problems, and they prefer to tell men how they need to improve Or they use the guys that men and women both need to improve as a distraction for directly solving the problems of the misbehavior of Black women. They'll get very uncomfortable and agitated when you force them to stay on the subject. And I think we've all seen this. I see this all the time. You know, Black men, we can talk about Black men all day long, and generally, unless they've been really, really hurt in the past, they are mature enough to listen. And even if they don't agree, they don't really argue. You know, they'll concede on some points or whatever. They'll take it in a mature way. If you try doing the same thing with a woman, watch out. We can never focus on what do we as women need to do. As a matter of fact, that's about the only critique I've had from anybody that's read the book is, I liked the book, it had good information in it, but it should have been more balanced. We need to talk about the man's role. And I always say, well, I really can't talk about the man's role. I'm not a man. I don't know how to be a man. I know what I look for in a man, but I can't tell somebody what they need to do. That's for a man to do. So let a brother write a book and tell them that. All I'm dealing with is women. We need to focus on ourselves. That's so hard for a lot of women, especially when they have that widowist mindset. They don't understand that the only person you can change is you. And they don't understand the power of women, because if we change, if we become better, and we raise the bar for men to be with us, those men will rise to the occasion. When we start acting like the best, when we start acting like queens instead of claiming the title of queen, and that's why I played Crown Me Queen by Queen Jasira when we came in. You can't want the title if you don't want the actions that go along with the title. Queens have etiquette. They know how to talk to people. They're well cultured. They have so many attributes. If you are not willing to try to work on having some of those attributes, having grace, having femininity, don't call yourself a queen. But we don't want to focus on that. We want to say, well, the Black woman, you know, she's not doing a very good job with her children. Well, what about the man? Well, you know, you should clean the house. Well, what about the man? Well, Black women, you know, you should, you know, back down a little bit and move out of the way so men can step up. Well, what about the man? It's always that, and it's never really in a constructive way. We can never focus on our problems and realize that our problems need to be solved separately, women with women and men with men, because they always want to mesh the two together because they know that nothing's going to get solved that way and they can carry on doing the same stuff that they've always done. That is the number one trick of Black Widowists. Look out for it. Black Widowists never deal with the fact that they play a major role in their own suffering by being irresponsible in choosing mates and engaging in destructive behavior in the name of freedom. Instead, again, she chooses to point the finger at the Black man. My friends do this to me all the time. Well, they used to. They don't do it anymore because they've learned. They'll come to me, well, my baby daddy this and my baby daddy that. Okay, well, before you had a baby with him, did you investigate? Did you see how he was with his other children? Did you talk to his family? Or did you just, you know, first or second date give in to him and now you're on a relationship, or now you're in a relationship and now you have all these complaints? No, before you lay down with somebody, and especially before you have a baby with somebody, these are things that you need to look at. You can't always blame a quote-unquote loser for being a loser, and you slept with the loser. You got with the loser. Nobody forced you to. We bear some responsibility in this. And then we get with a quote-unquote loser, and then that doesn't work, and then we go to a good Black man and make him pay for what the quote-unquote loser did. We don't want to take any responsibility for our actions. And even though we say, you know, women are just as good as men and all that kind of stuff, you're kind of disproving that or making that seem like a fallacy if you're not willing to step up and say, I'm responsible for my actions. You're basically saying that you're inferior because a man, you know, is in control of your destiny. No, you're in control of your destiny. Nobody forced you to do that. That's something that we need to work on, and it will solve a lot of problems when we start taking responsibility for the things that we do. Widowists believe that a healthy sexual relationship objectifies the woman. They view sex, even with a loving partner, as a chore, or similar to Europeans, they'll see them as sex as a means of being conquered. They don't realize that their views on intimacy are perverted and inappropriate for Black women. So they'll have an argument with you about that. You know, if you say, you know, sex is a healthy part of a relationship, you know, you should enjoy, you know, being intimate with your partner. If you suggest, you know, your partner's a little mad at you, well, throw on a little something nice, go in there and take his mind off of it. They'll see that as objectification, even within a healthy relationship, because they've heard it so much on TV about women being objectified in the media and whatever. They'll actually project that onto a relationship. So they can never have a healthy sexual relationship because they're always worried about being objectified or being conquered. They see that as a way of men getting over on women and being victimized again, often because they have been victimized in that way. So their whole perception has been perverted, and when you try to explain to them a healthier way to look at things, they get very offended and they look at you like they're crazy. Classic Black Widowist. Widowists do not understand the concept of becoming one. I mentioned this earlier. They have often been hurt and violated, therefore the idea of having some complete control over their body is essential. That's what drives them. They may claim the right to abortion or get angry when it's suggested that they should satisfy their man. They need to maintain their independence. A lot of times they think that they're being interdependent, but they're not. They're very misguided about that. The concept of becoming one is something that's so crucial to a relationship, and it's something, probably the hardest part of a relationship is becoming one, and focusing on the relationship versus yourself. That's a very difficult thing to do, and for most of us it could take years and it could take a lifetime. You know, it's very, very selfish, I feel, when you say I can abort a baby because it's my body, but you never give the baby the right that that's the baby's body that you're disposing them of just because the baby is within you. That's very hypocritical to me. I've had people say, you know, well, you know, what if you don't want to, you know, be intimate with your man? You know, why should you have to do it? Well, you shouldn't have to do it. But what's the problem with doing it? If you're going to be married to somebody for the rest of your life, you don't want to hold them hostage. You don't want them being unsatisfied because you're the only person they can go to get that need met. So if you can meet the need, why wouldn't you want to meet the need unless there's something crazy kind of going on in your mind? Of course, there's always exceptions. Sometimes you're tired, sick, something like that. But if this is an ongoing thing and you really have a problem with it, that gets into control issues. And that's where the widowism comes in. You know, it should never be a thing where it's not about the two, where it's only about you, you know, and your control, and this is my body and I do what I want to do. No, when you come together, you're one, because these same people will get angry if the man goes somewhere else. I knew of a couple once who the woman, for whatever reason, she never gave a reason. Everything else in the relationship was fine, but she just didn't want to be intimate with her husband. It lasted about a year or two, and he was faithful. And finally, he decided to go out and get somebody else, and she was devastated and divorced him because she feels like, this is my body. I don't have to do anything. I don't care if we're married. I don't care if I'm trapping you and wasting 2 years of your life. I don't have to do it. Now, that's an extreme example, but these are things that really go on in real life in terms of Black widowists. It's not fair, it's not cute, and it should not happen. Widowists do not understand that relationships can be healthy and positive. Whenever you speak in terms of a beautiful relationship, they'll always bring up a dysfunctional possibility. They tend to be very unrealistic and see normal day-to-day interactions as oppressive or abusive. They tend to be hell raisers. And this is why I'm saying, some brothers, if you're not in a relationship yet, these are things that you need to look out for because they will cause you hell. You know, there are parts of my book in which I'll say something. I think one of the things I said is, you know, we want men to help around the house. It would really be intelligent for men to help around the house a lot more than what they do. But it's not always going to happen. Just realistically, it's not always going to happen. So when your man comes home, if you're sitting on the couch, if you see something needs to be picked up, just be the adult and pick it up. Don't, you know, go into this whole, I'm not gonna make you dinner because you didn't pick up your socks and all this kind of foolishness. That's stupid. Just pick it up, do what you need to do. You see it needs to be done, and go about your business. Well, a Black Widowist will turn that into, you know, some kind of abusive situation. Oh, well, so the man can just be lazy and not do nothing, and a man don't have to contribute. The man did contribute. He's been working all day, and even if you have too, and nothing is ever 50-50. It's okay to get tired of somebody if the relationship is unbalanced, for a long period of time, and say, brother, can you help me out a little bit? I'm feeling like this. But just to have that nasty attitude all the time is ridiculous. You may say, you have to watch how you speak to your man. You should speak to your man in a very feminine way. And their thing will be, well, what if the man don't speak to you like that? I mean, so you should just let a man shout at you and cuss you out and do all this kind of stuff and you don't say nothing back? Whoa, we ain't talking about that. We're talking about a healthy relationship where the man and woman love each other and you get a little bit upset and you don't bite his head off. They always go that extra mile. They always have to throw in some kind of dysfunction because they can't imagine a healthy relationship where two people love each other. It's foreign to them. So when you come to them with common sense solutions, that's always going to be their response, is throwing in some kind of dysfunctional scenario. Very, very counterproductive. Regardless to what they claim, widowists despise the female principle and think it's weak, demeaning, and unimportant. They use the guise of balance to get out of gender roles. Their thinking is insane because they long to be in that man's role, yet they hate masculinity. They see no power in femininity. So they want to be like a man, but they don't like men, but they don't like women. So what's going on in their brain? It's insane. Absolutely insane. I said a lot of times, I think I even mentioned it in the book, that women tend to be the biggest male chauvinists because we are the ones that put everything that a man does on a pedestal like it's so much greater than the traditional woman's role. Anything a man can do, I can do better. We'll say, why should I be stuck in the house cooking and cleaning and taking care of some snotty-nosed children? Why should I do that? Why can't I be out in the workplace? Well, what makes you think that the workplace is more important than investing in your children? Those are the future. What makes you think that going out and having some job cooning for a white man is more important than being in the kitchen cooking a nutritious meal for your family to make sure that they have long, healthy lives? What's wrong with your mind that you don't see the value in your own femininity? They don't see this insanity, but you'll see it all the time by people that you don't even really think are feminists, but it will come out from time to time. They see anything pertaining to the traditional woman's role as demeaning, a waste of time, unimportant, and something that's basically disposable, to be honest. African-centered widowists will quickly throw out traditional African gender roles in the name of balance. If you try bringing up the topic of polygamy in the interest of Black women, they'll automatically bring up polyandry, even though it makes no sense numerically. If you bring up cleaning, they'll advise you that men should help with the chores 50-50. I talked about that a little bit earlier. We like to talk about balance. And if you say, if the man's going out to work, you take care of the home, they'll say, no, the man should be able to help. Why can't the man help? It's got to be balanced. And they claim to be African-centered. But when you go and you see a documentary about a traditional African clan or something like that, normally you see the women, they're pounding their grains and they're cooking their food, and the men are over there doing their governance or whatever. They're sitting around talking or out hunting or doing the man stuff. That's the balance, that the women are women and the men are men. The balance is not that they're both androgynous, so the women are going to go out hunting and the man's going to beat the millet or the corn or whatever they're eating. That's not balance. That's European philosophy, and it's crept in a lot. So when you see people, women or men, but especially women, throwing around this balance thing, you have to really look and see exactly what they're talking about, because 9 times out of 10, they don't know what balance is. I brought up polygamy not because I agree with it. I'm pretty neutral on it, actually, but we're going to be discussing that in a later show, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But a lot of people bring up the topic of polygamy for Black people because of the situation where there's not enough men for every woman to have one. So why not have, multiple women for the men who can afford to do that if the women agree to it? Whatever. Am I doing that? No. But in a concept, as far as a concept, I can see it. The woman will flip that around and say, well, why can't I have more than one man? Classic widowism. It makes no sense. If there's not enough men for every black woman, why would one black woman have 2, 3, 4 dudes? And then 10 of her sisters don't have anybody at all. They're so worried about their own ego and their own widowism that they don't even make sense. They don't even stop to think about what's best for the community. You know, they claim to be concerned about women, but they don't do what's in the best interest of women because they're too busy making up these silly, illogical kind of philosophies. So that's definitely one thing to look out for. Black widowists play tit for tat. They don't understand that equality is not always equal. Instead of performing duties as needed, they feel that the man must reciprocate every single action. Most times, black widows fail to live up to their own standards. So I keep going back to the house cleaning thing. Okay, we got to split the house cleaning 50-50. That's what the man should do. The man should help me. Now, you ask them, okay, fine. Well, go out and wash all the dirt off my car, or go change my tire, or go kill that spider, or whatever she don't like doing that the man normally does. Have her do 50% of that and see how far you get. She ain't gonna do it. But it sounds good to try to get the men to help her with whatever her responsibility is. But she's not going to return the favor at all. They don't live up to their own standards. All they do is talk a lot of mess and infect the minds of innocent people who do not think like that. Widows hate being advised to be humble in disagreements with men. They don't understand that you can't win an argument with your spouse. This is very important, and this is something that even normal people don't understand. You cannot win an argument with your spouse. It's impossible. Because again, we're working on the concept of one, working with the concept of one. Anytime you have a winner, there is automatically a loser. So if you win and your spouse loses, actually, you're both losing. How can you win if your spouse loses? It's impossible. And this fact goes over their heads. And that's why I talk so much about how to communicate, how to work with each other, and how to live at peace with each other, because there is no winner. You cannot win an argument with your spouse. As a matter of fact, when you feel like you won, a lot of times your spouse, you've either hurt their feelings, hurt their self-esteem, they're feeling low or whatever. How can you win in a situation like that? Why would you want to? Why would your ego need to be stroked that much that you would hurt the person that you're with? And then say that you're interdependent. How can you be interdependent and hurt part of the whole? Half of the whole is hurt. You're not winning. You're losing. This goes over a lot of people's heads. This is definitely part of the widowism thing, but even normal people, that's a part of it because it's something that we have not been taught about and we don't think about. So we'll get in an argument and feel like, yeah, I won this one. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You lost. You both lost. Widowists do not enjoy marriage and motherhood completely because they feel that being in service to others is demeaning. They may not say it, but they do. Again, it's that female male chauvinism where why should I have to be at home? They feel demeaned by doing those things. Nurturing is a major part of the feminine spirit. The family suffers without it and the woman is left unfulfilled because her spirit is unfulfilled because that's part of what she should be doing innately. And she's not doing it. There's no way to feel complete like that. A lot of times children wonder why they were even able to be born. When they were born to a mother like that, a feminist woman like that, they're like, well, why did you even have me? If you wasn't going to invest in me, I mean, why bother? I didn't ask for this. And I'm going to read, I found a while ago part of an article from Alice Walker's daughter. She wrote The Color Purple, which is not as bad as the movie, but it's still pretty bad. She had wrote this book, and, feminists love it. Black women in general love it, but definitely feminists love it. People that have been victimized love it. And we look up to Alice Walker like she's some black god, like she's somebody to be respected, and we don't know the true person behind that nasty, feminist, damaged person. So I'm just going to read a little bit. I'm not going to read the whole thing about what her daughter had to say about being the child of a feminist. She said, "The truth is that I nearly missed out on becoming a mother thanks to being brought up by a rabid feminist who thought motherhood was about the worst thing that could happen to a woman. You see, my mom taught me that children enslave women. I grew up believing that children are millstones around your neck, and the idea that motherhood can make you blissfully happy is a complete fairy tale. In fact, having a child has been the most rewarding experience of my life. Far from enslaving me, 3.5-year-old Tenzin has opened my world. My only regret is that I discovered the joys of motherhood so late. I've been trying for a second child for 2 years, but so far with no luck. As the child of divorced parents, I know only too well the painful consequence of being brought up in those circumstances. Feminism has much to answer for denigrating men and encouraging women to seek independence, whatever the cost to their families. My mother's feminist principles colored every aspect of my life. As a little girl, I wasn't even allowed to play with dolls or stuffed toys in case they brought out a maternal instinct. It was drummed into me that being a mother, raising children, and running a home were forms of slavery. Having a career, traveling the world, and being independent were what really mattered, according to her. I love my mother so much, but I haven't seen her or spoken to her since I became pregnant. She has never seen my son, her only grandchild. My crime? Daring to question her ideology." So that's an extreme case, but that is a feminist that has had such a major impact on the Black community. You know, we've heard the Irritated Genie's lectures. We know that the color purple was huge. And yes, the Jews definitely changed the script and all that, but I've read the book. And the book, was not that flattering to Black men either. I mean, some of the scenes were different. The ending was different. But it was definitely written from a feminist perspective. And then she, of course, let the Jews do whatever they did to the movie and made it even worse. And that's had such an impact on us. Movies like Women of Brewster Place and all these other things that came out around the same time basically brainwashed us into thinking we have to be at war with our men, that there's no other way around it, that our men are our enemies. And so we've raised her and her thinking up on a pedestal, and look at what her own daughter says about her. That's one thing a lot of widowists don't think about. You can say whatever you want to and have whatever attitude you want to, but how is it affecting your children? Does it matter? How is it affecting your man? Does it matter? I guess it don't really matter with the man, because a man, you can replace the man, fine. But the children, if you're going to come from that feminist point of view, you can replace the man, but you can't replace your children. They're yours. If you choose to have them, because a lot of them getting abortions, they don't even let the children be born. But you have a child, how is that affecting them? These are things we have to start thinking about. This is why I'm saying it's so damaging to our community. Widowists love to advise others on relationships but cannot maintain one. They look down on more feminine women who keep their commitments intact, using maturity, femininity, and humility. We all know that woman who, she's basically a hater. She sees you doing all the right things in your relationship and she always has something to say about it. She ain't had a steady man in forever, but she knows everything that you're doing wrong. Classic feminist, and get those kind of people out of your circle. They're not worth it. Widowists will preach strength, but they don't understand that sometimes it takes more strength to be silent than to confront, to move on instead of pout, or to take the high road instead of wallowing in the mud. They don't understand, again, in a healthy relationship, because the feminists will always try to throw in some kind of abusive, unhealthy drama into it. In a healthy relationship, if your man comes home and you don't know what he's been going through all day, he comes home, he got a little attitude or whatever, and you ask him a question and he barks at you a little bit, you ain't got to bark back. You can let it go until he calms down and you can find out, well, what's going on with him? I didn't do nothing to him. Why are you reacting that way? I don't understand. A feminist or a widowist will never do that, because she sees he disrespected me. I got to disrespect him, and I got to disrespect him more. You're not going to victimize me. You're not going to talk that way to me. They don't realize the strength it takes when somebody comes at you crazy sometimes to just let it go. You don't know. He might have just lost his job and he just ain't told you yet. He could have got stopped by the police and had his life at risk. You don't know. He could have been under any kind of stress. But instead of being mature enough to wait and find out the situation, once things cool down, and then say, babe, I really don't appreciate you talking to me like that. My feelings were hurt or whatever. No, you bark at me, I'm going to bark at you. Classic feminist. But they say they're strong. And that's another thing that we need to do is redefine the strong black woman, because the way it is right now is not a strong black woman. It's a completely immature, out of her mind, I hate to say savage, but a savage. And a lot of times you see women going off and hollering and screaming, they start to look like wild beasts. It's not attractive. It's not a way that a woman should conduct herself. We should always be the standard of morality. It doesn't matter what the men do. Well, it does matter what the men do, but we should always be a step ahead. We should be better than that. We should take the high road. That's part of being a woman. For example, you see a man smoking, it's like, ugh, why are you smoking? You see a woman smoking, it's a lot worse. That's disgusting. What are you doing to yourself? When women stoop to the level of men, sometimes when men are behaving badly, when we do that, it looks a lot worse. And a lot of people will say that's a double standard, and maybe it is, but that's reality. We have to deal with that. And it's going to take a strong black woman to be able to act in a more mature way, and not always have to be down on the level of badly behaving or poorly behaving black man. Widowists love to claim family and talk about family, but they're never willing to put in the work to keep their family intact. We've touched on that. They don't want to raise children. They don't want to put in that work. They don't see why they should. And if they do put in the work, then they're going to try to badmouth the man. Doesn't matter if it damages the children. You just like your daddy. Your daddy ain't nothing. If your daddy loved you, he'd be there. Just to make themselves feel better. But it don't matter that they're hurting the child. Don't matter. Widowists often speak in very feminine tones, but their words will always give them away. I'm big on listening to people. That's one of my biggest words of advice during courtship is don't talk so much. Just listen. People will always tell the truth on themselves if you let them talk long enough. That's another reason that you should think before you speak, because you never know what's going to fly out. You want to make sure that your words are really reflecting who you are. People will tell on themselves. So even if you have a very soft-spoken sister who sounds so sweet, don't listen to the tone of voice. Listen to the words. Listen to the message. Listen to the spirit, and she will tell on herself. I said before that widowists want the title of queen without developing any grace, any charm, any etiquette of somebody that would be expected of somebody with that title. So we need to stop giving everybody the title of queen. If they ain't acting like a queen, they ain't a queen. We need to think of another word for them. They just that average woman or something. They definitely are not a queen, and they're definitely not a strong black woman, because a strong black woman wouldn't tear down her community. Widowists are very selfish. Their concern for their own egos takes precedence over family and community. They refuse to make positive changes that would be for the greater good if it means setting aside their ego. Their arrogance masks their confusion and their helplessness. So it doesn't matter if they know that doing the right thing would benefit everybody. They're not going to do it unless it strokes their ego. If it doesn't prop them up or aggrandize them in some way, they're not interested in it. That's why I said that they are so destructive to the community, because everything has to do with their ego. Their ego comes before anything else. The last thing in my notes here is that widowists rarely see themselves as widowists. They believe that they are reasonable and rational, and that's the hilarious part, because they will be some of the most feminist women in the world, and they'll be like, no, I'm not. I cook, I can do this, I can do that. That ain't got nothing to do with it. It's all about your mindset. It's going to determine whether or not you are a widowiest. So I hope I wasn't rambling too much. You got a little peek into the minds and thoughts of Sister Shabazz, maybe Lady Shabazz, maybe Sister Shabazz. We'll come to that conclusion soon. That is just my thoughts on Black Widowism. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can go on and call in. The call-in number is 760-569-7676. The participation code is 948656#. That's 948656#. On top of this, we do have to deal with chauvinism a little bit, so you can call in and talk about that. Just because you talk about chauvinism doesn't mean you're a feminist. A lot of times, feminism is just a response to male chauvinism. There's a lot of latent homosexuality going on in the Black community with Black men who, possibly because of being raised by one of these widowist mothers or something like that, they really don't like Black women. And a lot of times it's a borderline hatred with Black women. So if they're not gay, mentally they're on the road because they really are not fans of Black women, and they can be so vicious that as a response, people go to feminism, just as a defense mechanism to avoid that. So if you want to call in and talk about chauvinism, we can do that too, because there is plenty of that in the Black community, in the conscious community. Definitely. Let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to say before I go to the phone lines? I think that's it. I can always come back and add to it later. So definitely go on and call in now if you have any questions or comments. I see a bunch of y'all listening online. Don't be scared. Go on and call in. Let me know what you think, if I'm off the mark or if you agree with what I'm saying. And also with solutions. I'm always open to that. All right. 4938, you are live on War on the Horizon. 4938. All right, I will assume that you are just listening. Now, I know that we do have still have a lot of new callers calling in. So some of you are just listening and you don't want to speak up, but at least just tell me that you're just listening. So I'm not sitting there waiting on you to answer for a long time. Just tell me you're just listening. I'll move right on to the next caller. We always appreciate you calling in to listen. So just let us know. All right, I think this is my brother. Peace, how are you?
Peace, sis. This your brother True. What's going on, family?
Nothing much. Glad to hear from you.
Yo, listen, man. Praise, man. Turn the glory to God for sending us Lady Shabazz, man. I appreciate the work you're doing, sis. I really, really, truly do, sis.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Man, one thing that you said that I was blown. I was moving around, so there might have been some things that I missed. But when you brought up the fact that nobody wins in a relationship, that even if you argue, if one supposedly quote unquote wins, you both lose because you're working on being one. Wow, sis, I'm gonna tell you straight up, because a lot of times when me and my queen get into something, I focus on winning. So you really, really put me in my place, and I appreciate that.
That's no problem. And that's something that we're all working on. I mean, I do it sometimes, and you could be arguing about something stupid, who gonna eat the last cookie, I go and run in the kitchen before my husband just so I can get the last cookie because you ain't gonna have it.
Yeah, we need to just focus all our energy towards war, towards this beast, this cracker. That's what we really need to start doing. And I wanted to add, I don't know if you mentioned, it's an entity to the widow, and that's the mother who thinks her motherhood is better than fatherhood. And to give a quick example, you know me, sis, I'm an open book. My daughter, who's 14, wanted her nose pierced. Right. Now, she doesn't live with me. She lives with her mom's. Her and her mother made the decision to pierce her nose without checking with me, her father. And I'm not a deadbeat father, I'm there, and I, emotionally, spiritually, I spend time, economics, everything. I mean, you know me, Sister Shabazz, this is for the callers. And they came up with this decision without consulting me. And when I brought that to their attention, how can you not come to the father? This is something serious. We're talking about disfiguring her face, and my opinion was totally ignored. And when I finally did speak my opinion, it was not acknowledged, it was not respected. She came at me with nothing but negativity and aggression. And mind the fact that I'm like, listen, I'm a man. I know how men view girls. I know how men view women. As much as you think you know men, because you've dealt with men, you're not a man. You don't see the world through a man's eyes. None of that matters, sis. And right now, my daughter has her nose pierced. And the thing is, I at least said, hey, let's wait till she's 16 before we even entertain this. You know what I mean? So I don't know if you mentioned anything about the motherhood, but I just want to say, a widow, she doesn't acknowledge, respect, or even want to consider nothing that what the father says, even if the father is in the child's life.
You know what? That is something that I missed, and I just wrote it down so I could add it to my notes in case I need to use it later. I'll make sure to give you the credit. But that is something. It's true, and it's serious. It's very serious, and it's funny that you tell that story because I did something very similar when I turned 14, maybe a little worse. And I did not tell my father because I knew my father would say no. So me and mom went down and disfigured my body. And, now, years later, it's totally like now I'm like, why would I do that? I wish it would have never happened, but that's the mind of a 14-year-old. And a lot of times these women can be very unwise, I'll say, as far as being a mother and not really being the disciplinarian and knowing that they're not going to be the disciplinarian. They're more interested in being the friend. They won't let the father do that either. So you're really hurting your child because she doesn't have that natural defense that she would normally have. And as you said about motherhood being better than fatherhood, I see that all the time. I mean, that happens even before the baby's born. If the mother doesn't want the child and the father does, she can get an abortion. Oh, well, you ain't got a choice in it. But if she decides that, to have the baby and the father doesn't want it, then he's a deadbeat. Exactly.
Yeah, man, it's a one of her excuses was, well, you got tattoos, and I said, okay. I also started drinking when I was 12. Are you gonna allow her to once you know better, you're supposed to do better. So that's what I'm saying, and it was just wow, yeah. So I appreciate the show, sis. I just want to say one thing too that I've noticed. I don't know if this is part of widowism. But also, I noticed that a lot of men call sisters queens way more than they call men kings. Mm-hmm. You constantly hear brothers like, oh, peace, queen. And I've seen it, like, peace, queen. Hey, what's up, brother? Like, totally, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've noticed that a lot, you know what I mean? I mean, you do the knowledge for yourself. Just observe that. Observe how much brothers call sisters queens. And this ain't about no ego. I'm just wondering if this is a reflection to how we think, or how sisters think, rather. Do they really see brothers as even having the potential to be a king? Or have we been dropped in their minds so low that we can't even see? But it's okay for us to be, I'm talking about from female, but it's okay for them to be called queens.
I think that is definitely a part of widowism, that we see ourselves as better than black men. We've been told that we're better than black men. We a lot of times can get better jobs and better opportunities than black men. We're treated with more respect generally than black men. So we do see ourselves like that. And it's funny that you mentioned it because when I was younger, I was around the NGE a lot. So a lot of times I'll say peace, God, or something like that. And I remember saying that one day, and this sister was like, why would you call him God? And I was thinking that it's because I'm in the Midwest. I'm not out on the East Coast. But now that you mention it, it wasn't that at all. It's just like, how could you associate this black man with godhood or anything exalted? Don't you know who you're looking at? That's just a black man. That's just an N-word. What are you talking about? Peace, God. What is that?
Yeah, exactly. Sis, I'm gonna say one last thing because I don't want to be one of those callers I complained about 2 weeks ago. One thing I noticed too, that like when sisters meet a real man, and I've learned this from real experience. I consider myself a real man, so this is actual experience, and then from other brothers' testimonies who I know who are real men. Women a lot of time when they meet a real man, I'm talking about relationship wise, they don't know how to act. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's as if they're so used. And this is probably because of the so many so-called men who are not really acting like men. They're so used to, I guess, treating men like boys who play video games and get high all day. I don't know that when they meet a real man, they don't know what to do with them. You know what I mean? It's as if they can't respect their manhood or their authority. They want to treat him like he's a boy, and when he acts like a man, they want to like destroy him and back into boyhood. You understand what I'm saying?
Definitely. And I think that that's how we're groomed. I mean, everything that we see is showing us that black men are not men. Even hip hop. I don't know too many good examples of black manhood in hip hop. And that's why I love you guys so much. Because you're providing that missing link that actually shows that you can be a rapper and have talent and be a man and be positive. Because a lot of what we see is just low life stuff. So we do tend to look at black men like they're less than us, like you said, like they're boys. And we're surprised when they say, no, I'm not a boy, and you're going to treat me like a man. It's shocking to us. So we do have that habit. You've brought up so many good points. So I'm adding all of this to my notes because I missed quite a lot. I thought I was rambling, but I missed some things.
Nah, that's why we a family, sis. And you definitely wasn't rambling. I was definitely learning from the stuff you were saying. As far as the solution, we just really have to knowledge itself says it all. You know, knowledge itself teaches you what a man is supposed to be like, what he looks like, what he acts like, as well as what a woman looks like and acts like. So we got to remember that, like Baba Ruti teaches, I always use this quote, when you're swimming in the sea of insanity, you're bound to get wet. Mm-hmm. So even if you meet a woman who's not acting like one, or when you meet a man who's not acting like one, we must not let that distort our vision. You know, those are illusions. You know what I mean? This is the matrix. So that's the solution, knowledge itself. And if your man ain't acting like one, then get a real one.
Exactly.
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling in, brother. I appreciate it. And I always love hearing from you.
Appreciate you too, sis. Habibi for Hodie.
Habibi for Hodie. Give the queen my greetings.
D.
All right. That is my brother True of United Front. That is a really good brother. And I said this on another show. I will repeat it. You know, I've never, I can't say never. For a long time, I haven't been what I consider to be a feminist. That's something that I've been working on once I saw that it was a problem. However, with the black men that I was around, my opinion of black men was not the highest. I met my husband, which showed me that there's one good black man out there, at least. It's one, because my husband's excellent. He's a real good person. But I still kind of was like, okay, well, I got the only good black man on earth. I better hold on to him, better treat him right. But after coming into contact with War on the Horizon, everybody in United Front, just a lot of people that I'm more in contact now, my opinion of black manhood has really gone through the roof. And I think that's one of the things that are missing, because a lot of us never get to experience that kind of quality. Not saying they're perfect, you know. Everybody has their issues and whatever. But just being really good people, really responsible people, those are the people that we need to focus on. And it's not that they're not around. It's that we don't pay attention to them. You know, we don't look at the custodian or the mailman or, you know, just the ordinary, but we don't look at them. Those are not the ones that draw our attention. We're so busy looking at the negative that we miss the positive. We'll walk right by them and never know. At one of my jobs, I tell the story a lot. I was the only black person in that building besides the custodian. I was like the spook that sat by the door. It was me and the custodian. We were the only ones allowed in. And, you know, these white people, usually they were decent because they liked me. They, like I said, I'm spooked that sat by the door. I wasn't cooning, but, you know, I treat people the way I want to be treated. I do my job. I go home. So most people don't have a problem with me. But it was a few times they did some stuff and I was about to just let loose because contrary to popular belief, I'm really not that much of a nice person. And that brother would come around and he saved me from losing my job on so many occasions, just talking to me and talking some sense into me. And, you know, it was just a wonderful thing. But that kind of brother, a lot of us don't pay any attention to. I think we all know somebody like that who's really balanced, just a really good guy, not somebody that we're necessarily in a relationship with or anything like that, just a good brother. but we don't focus on them. We focus on the negative, and then we wonder why, where are all the good black men? Well, you see them every day. That's just not the person that you pay attention to. And then the more you do that, the more skewed your vision gets. And then, you're asking that question, where are all the good black men? Let's see. We'll go back to the phone lines. 2237, you're live on War on the Horizon.
That I hadn't seen Karen in 5, and it was only
2237.
Years ago, we just reunited. 2 to 3 years ago.
All right. Sounds like they're having a sidebar conversation. So we'll let them have their privacy. 5469, you're live on War on the Horizon. 5469. All right. I will assume that you are just listening in. 6560, you're live on War on the Horizon.
Hotep, Queen.
Hotep, how are you, brother?
Brother.
Is this my brother?
Brother. It's like, now this is like...
Oh, don't do that, because women be having some deep voices. I thought I was about to get beat up.
This show is so on point tonight. This is going to be an instant classic.
You think so? I'm glad, because I feel like when I talk for like an hour and I don't have a guest, I feel like I'm rambling, so I never know.
Yeah, you hit on so much stuff. I'm in here. I just I punched my work laptop, so now I gotta go to IT in the morning and get a new laptop.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I was there flipping out. I don't even remember what it was you said now, because I just got so heated. But
laptop in the trunk.
Point tonight, huh?
Said laptop in the trunk.
Yeah, the cracker laptop in the trunk. Yeah, then Brother Chu came in there, hit me with the, I've really gone through that, especially since I've been reactionized, and been introduced to Dr. Khaled, where I really began to grow into my manhood. And it seems like what he said was so true, because when you come across a black woman and you are a black man, she does, she pulls out the stops, do everything in her power. And she really gets up real early in the morning to destroy you at every single turn to make you a little boy. It's sad, everything. Not to get too personal, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to get off the line right now, because I might start saying some stuff. I don't want to vent right now, but
see, what you're supposed to do is,
this movement it's so beyond ridiculous. It's one of the most ridiculous movements I've ever seen, and studied social reforms down through the annals of time. So, in order to become a feminist, a woman has to become less feminine.
right.
It's a ridiculous conundrum. I can't wrap my mind around it, but I really appreciate the program tonight.
No problem. And I will go on and let you go. But look, next time you call in, what you say was, I had known a friend and they had gone through so-and-so, and then you can let us know what's on your mind. Don't call in and see. You never call in and say, see, what had happened was. You call in and say, see, a friend of mine. See, that's the secret.
Okay, I got it.
All right, brother. You have a good evening.
You too, sir.
Peace. That is our good brother. And I love that he brought up the point about, in order to become a feminist, you have to become less feminine. That is so true. And I think the first time, I have to give credit where credit is due, the first time that I ever heard that was on a website called Blacktown. I think it's blacktown.net or blacktown.com. And you know, he can be a little hardcore sometimes. I've been thinking about asking him to be a guest. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Because he tells the truth, but he can be a little hardcore sometimes. But he said, there's nothing feminine about feminism. And I repeat that all the time, because when you look at these feminine women, there is nothing, or these feminist women, I should say, there is nothing less feminine in the world, especially the white feminists. Especially, you wouldn't want your dog to go around them, especially knowing how they get down with dogs sometimes. I mean, these women are just the most disgusting looking, horrific specimens you've ever seen. So keep that in mind when you want to go there and be this big feminist and I don't need a man and I'm macho woman. Look at who you up there with. Look at your company. It's not something I would recommend. It's not a good look. All right, we are going to go back to the phone lines. 3556, you're live on War on the Horizon. 3556. Last chance. All right, I will assume that you are listening in. Don't be afraid to let me know that you're just listening in. I will not bite, I promise. 0233, you're live on War on the Horizon.
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
0233, you're live on War on the Horizon. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you, Sister Shabazz?
I'm wonderful. We can hear the radio going a little bit in the background. Could you turn that down just a little bit so we can hear you better?
Oh, okay, I'll turn it down. The radio going a little bit in the background. Okay. Turn that down just a little bit so we can hear you better. Sure. Sure, how's that?
That's good. How are you tonight?
I'm fine. I'm just enjoying the conversation, and I just want to chime in.
Oh, definitely.
I just want to say that I totally agree that sometimes black women, we have been made to be the head of household so long until sometimes we just don't know how to treat a good black man. It's just hard to go from one role to the next role. It's just difficult.
It is. Do you?
And I like to believe that I am capable because I'm aware. But many times, I don't want to say that black women step down, but sometimes when you perhaps come out of your class and come down a little bit, that person has the potential to be a good man, but sometimes they're not ready for the challenge of who you are. I mean, you can only humble yourself for so much without going around in a circle. You want to go forward. You want to grow. You want to take your family forward. You want to be strong. You don't want to be foolish.
Can you give an example of what you're talking about?
Well,
not like personal necessarily, but just in general.
Well, just look at education. Sometimes, you may be black women. Sometimes we're very educated, and sometimes a lot of our men are not as educated as we are, and sometimes they just feel kind of, no matter what you do to reassure them, they kind of feel like they want you to stop a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, they want you to stop striving. It's like, stop, And how do you change that part of you to suit somebody?
Well, and that's one thing that I never recommend is changing yourself for somebody or having somebody change for you. You just have to find a good fit that you can get along with peacefully enough to make it work. I haven't had that problem too much because my preference has always been a blue-collar brother. And I know I'm probably not the norm, but I have had a tendency to avoid the white-collar brothers just because of a certain attitude that comes along with them. I'm very kind of national.
I agree with you. I agree. I prefer blue-collar.
Yeah.
But it's like every time I'm intermingle with them, they just kind of like, they love me at first. They love the cooking and the cleaning and the humbleness. But then it's almost like they become threatened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like all of a sudden, I don't know how to put it. They love me at first, and then all of a sudden they want to take me and put me in a box and put me someplace safe and stop me from doing this and stop me from doing that. And I'm like, really?
I think.
What do I have to do to make you feel secure?
And you know what? We have some people on the line who I know are going to be able to give a little bit more insight. I can't speak for personal things because I'm not in it. I don't know. But I know a lot of men, before they even meet you, have a bad taste in their mouth about a certain type of woman with a certain kind of job or a certain kind of education because they've dealt with women or they know people who have dealt with women who have, been very successful in the white man's world, and they've had such an attitude. Whether they knew it or not, they may speak down to the man, or they may always flaunt what they feel is their success in front of the man to try to lower him and things like that. So even if you're not necessarily doing that, he may be very sensitive about that because it's done by so many women. A lot of people think, even just having a bachelor's degree, but especially if they have a master's or PhD or something like that, that they are just the stuff now. And that they'll use that degree or that high-paying job as a weapon to kind of keep the black man in his place. And a black man, if he really is a man and he's strong, doesn't want that. Now, there's some black men who are weak and they just want to be taken care of like a child, and they'll love it. They'll eat it up. But a real black...
I don't like that type.
No,
I don't like that.
No, that's disgusting.
I don't like that. I think men should be men. They should be strong. They should be protective. I mean, if I do my part and I cook and clean and bring money home, then you got to do your part and be strong and protective. Money is important, but it's something about being free. I mean, when you meet a person, something about you they like. They like that self-assuredness. But then when they get with you, it's almost like, don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, wait a minute, really?
As far as like furthering your education or taking like job opportunities, that kind of stuff?
Well, no. In my case, it's like just taking chances. I like to take money and do things. If I want to buy something, I'll buy something and say, let's try this business, or let's do this, or let's flip that. And it's almost like, no, we're not going to take that chance. No, we're not going to do this. I'm leading this house. We're not going to this. We're not going to that. And I'm like, what are you afraid of? It's only money that we can lose. We can get it back again. And it's almost like, no matter how I humble myself, they don't appreciate, I don't believe they appreciate the level of trust I give them. I deserve the same.
Well, and sometimes it may be that, or it may be something completely different. A lot of our people, whether they have money or not, honestly, but just because of the way we've been raised, we have what they call a poverty consciousness, where we feel very comfortable in a box and we don't necessarily want to step out of it. So it may not even be the humility thing. It may just be that they're not comfortable taking those chances. They want to stay in the box that they're in, and it may not have anything to do with you. Again, I'm going to let some men later on speak to that a little bit more. But that's part, women suffer from that. Sometimes men suffer from that, just not necessarily wanting to go anywhere or do anything. We see a lot of black people were born in the ghetto, die in the ghetto, never leave the ghetto, unless we're going to the mall or something like that. A lot of us have that kind of living, and when you ask somebody to change, that can be a very uncomfortable thing. So it may not be necessarily you or your level of income or anything like that. It could just be that poverty mentality that so many of us are battling.
I agree. And that seems to be one of the big problems with me. I don't like being single. I don't think that women can do it by themselves successfully. I don't think it's a good thing. But I will tell you this. Even if by chance I fall on my head with loneliness and feel depressed and take up with someone, a day or a week later, I'm no longer depressed. And if I look to the side and I say, what? What? I'm out of there, Jack. Because it was just depression that put me there. You're not my style. You know what I mean? So I try not to bend too much when it doesn't make sense for me. You know what I mean?
And you shouldn't. That's what I said. You should not be with somebody that you feel needs to be changed or that you have to change as far as your personality. Like, we all need to polish up. We all could be better. But changing those things that make you would need to be accepted. So I know it's hard to wait and be patient, But yeah, you have to, because while you're messing with brothers who are not right for you, you may be missing the one that is.
Absolutely, you're right.
You got to have
I know
space
you're
for
right.
somebody to come in. You have to open the space. One brother can't come in if somebody else is filling that space. I mean, they can, but that's getting into some relationships we don't want to get into. So,
But you're right. That's why I'm not afraid to stand and walk alone. Not to be a feminist. Don't get me wrong. I'm not afraid to just be by myself, because how's he gonna find me if I'm not by myself?
Exactly. I would say just get out there and do the things that you like to do. That's usually where you're going to meet somebody. You're not going to meet them. People go to the club or go here or go there, trying to find all these places to go to meet somebody. You just have to be in your own element and do what you like doing. If you're a nationalist, then you go to a nationalist event. If you are, a certain religion, go to your temple or place of worship. Wherever you're comfortable at, whatever means something to you, that's what you need to throw yourself into and get involved with, and you'll probably find somebody, who feels similarly.
Yeah, you're right. I know you are. Well, thank you, Sister Shabazz.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for calling in. I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you, and have a good evening.
You too. Peace. All right. Now, I had some callers on the line I was counting on, and I see them dropping off. I'm going to need y'all to call back in to give some perspective on the sister and her question, because that's something I can't speak on. We need a male's perspective. So until I see the callers come back, I'm going to check in with some of my brothers and see if they have anything to say right quick, if they're still by their phone, see if they can give any insight, because I am not an expert in the male mind. I know a little bit, but I'll leave that to the experts whenever I can, so I'm not in here telling somebody something crazy. Let's see. Brother True, you still here?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you hear the last caller?
Yeah, I did. I was listening as she was speaking. I was definitely thinking about everything she was saying. And from my personal experience, I've definitely had sisters which that I told them, that, like, yo, you think you're smarter than me. A lot of sisters really, and I would say genuine, that they don't know, maybe the subconscious thing, like we spoke about earlier. A lot of sisters do really think that they're smarter than black men. It doesn't matter. How many degrees they have, or even like me. I don't have all them degrees. I just have associates. I don't care if you have a master's degree. I have the most powerful information in the universe, and that's knowledge itself. And I'm still learning. And within the conscious community, we still respect Euro certification. So I may just have an associate's, you have a master's, but I've read this education as me. Our knowledge 120. Supreme Wisdom for those who don't know 120 years. I've read Destruction of Black Civilization. I read Ibn Genie's book, Bible book. And a lot of times we say we respect that information, but we really don't. And again, it's just, as far as the brothers feeling insecure, that's really a hard one to tackle, because it depends on what type of insecurity it is. Because of the job, I remember feeling insecure because of the job. Because I have a
Brother
criminal
True.
record, and it's very difficult to get a job. And my queen may want to get up and move to another town, and I don't feel confident because I don't know if I'm going to be able to move and get a job when I'm in that town.
Right.
So
Brother
I don't know
True.
what form of insecurity she's talking about. Is it about money? Well, we live in Babylon. We know what the situation is. We know black men don't get paid as much as sisters do.
Hey, Brother True.
I don't know. I would have to hear more details as far as the insecurity reasons. And also, we got to remember too, if the sister's still listening, that a lot of times we have mothers that damage men because of how they raise their boys. Cursing at him, being harsh to him because maybe he looks or walks or acts like his father without even knowing it. So it might have stripped his confidence. I mean, there's just so many things. I would have to hear more information.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. That does help a little bit. So you think the majority of time it could be the woman's attitude or just some deep-seated insecurity in the man that they just need to kind of work on their own. It's not too much that she can do if it's not necessarily her attitude or arrogance or something like that.
Definitely. I mean, it could be something as subtle as like something as small as, let's say, the brother might be able to only, afford a Honda Accord, and she may, see the brother with the Beamer and say, wow, that's a nice car. Now, she's just specifically, commenting on the car, but he sees it as, I'm incompetent. I'm not able to afford the car that she likes.
Okay.
So it's comments, man. This is an art, man. We in a real, and like you wrote in your book, sis, which is an incredible book, as much as men want to front, our egos are very fragile. So something as simple as, wow, that brother has a nice car. You know what I'm saying? He might take that as like, oh man, I don't make enough money. I'm weak. I'm incompetent. She doesn't like me because I don't drive a hot car. She'd rather be with him. And we just take stuff like that to another level. I mean, I remember a time feeling like, my queen mentioned how she would like, where we live to have more green, more natural land and stuff like that. I thought about that for 2 weeks. I'm looking at houses with yards and thinking about her comment, how I wish I could provide that for her and what can I do to make her happy. Now, and I brought that to her attention, and she wasn't attacking me. She was just talking about how, she wished there was more nature. We live in a city. But, so it's like little things like that sisters might say, not trying to harm, not trying to cause any harm, but that create harm in a person when they're insecure or when they're not able to provide the way they want to. Now, at the same time, man, I'm not trying to develop any crutches or excuses for men either, because a lot of men ain't really on their grind like they're supposed to. I'm just saying that if you see your brother really striving, he's not just playing video games. I always use that example, playing video games or getting high all day or sleeping all day. If you really see him on his grind and he trying to make that money, he trying to get his job, he trying to do his hustle, and it's not just the front, you just got to support him and just really just back him up the best way you can. And just know that we're damaged people.
Nothing more I can add to that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, it's my pleasure, sis. My honor.
All right, peace.
Peace.
All right, and I see that my brother has called back in. Give me just a moment because the line seems to be a little shaky from time to time. I'm going to call right back in, so everybody just sit tight for 1 second.
Access code accepted. This conference is being recorded.
All right, we are back. Hopefully that cleared up the little static that we had in the line. Thanks again to Brother True for his insight as always. All right, you are live on War on the Horizon. What you got for us?
I'm just listening.
You know what? All right, bye.
I just can't listen.
No, you can't just listen. You would not be having that if I was like, I'm just listening. You'd be like, no, you ain't. I know you got something to say. You just don't want to get in trouble.
I'm an irritated genius. We can't all be irritated genius. Okay, my only comment would be, well, first, I really, 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 really like the program. And I think it's really good to do it regularly because there's a lot of good brothers out there who get healing by hearing a listening voice of a sister that's not disputing them, but actually agreeing, so that it makes a brother feel like it's not a war of black women against black men, but it's just issues that we have as a black community. That's a real important thing because other than that, the general consensus among decent black men is that black women are going to try to bring us down when we lock in with them. They're going to constantly try to fight and make life more difficult for us instead of less difficult for us.
Yeah.
And particularly if you're actually doing something of relevance, like a black nationalist, you're a Haitianist, you're out here racially focused, that your woman
woman will feel as though your focus on trying to help your race somehow diminishes your love for her, and that she is competing with that. And she literally will try to prevent you from fighting for your race because she feels like that's another woman almost.
That's true.
And when like you have a program like this, instead of me doing it or a brother doing it and us just sound like we sound the boys off each other, for there to be a sister sitting there saying, yeah, this is true, it has a healing effect, because it's like sometimes we start wondering, are we crazy? Because if everybody's going through the same thing, eventually you start feeling like, well, is it them or me? And black men will never admit this, but we actually sometimes go around and ask, well, is it something I'm doing? You know, brothers ask the question, is it something that I'm doing? And I got to the point where I don't ask the question anymore. I'm like, I want to fight the war, and that's all. That's what I care about. And anything else is just, for me, anything else is secondary and irrelevant. I don't care who or what it is. I'm going to fight these crackers to the end. So if a person is going to be a friend of mine or a close associate or any of them, they have to accept that. If they don't accept that, then they can't have a relationship with me. And that's a child, a spouse. It doesn't matter who it is in my life. My mother. I mean, I'm a race fighter. That's what I'm going to do. And I had to forgive myself for any slights that I'm going to give people that can't handle that. Because other than that, it drives me crazy. I mean, I found myself a number of times going crazy trying to manage these types of relationships. And I decided at one point, am I going to go crazy or am I going to stop caring about if I'm doing the things that are right and that are reasonable and a woman just can't get along, then I decided I don't care anymore. I'm just going to fight this war. I'm not telling anybody else to do that. I'm just saying brothers are really, really, everyday black men are not vocalizing how much damage is being done to them. Not even being done to them, how much damage they're experiencing by being in relationships that they're having difficulty managing. And what we do is we just start struggling internally and it starts destroying us on the inside. And for me, it drives me mentally. It starts affecting me mentally. Like, you know, it just starts affecting me mentally. So I stopped doing it. I've decided I'm no longer having any mental issues or stress related to relationships. It's not that it's important to me, but not as important as this race war. So it's not really, either it's going to work or it ain't. It's going to do what it's going to do. I'm not going to make a bunch of adjustments because I got important things for my race to do. And to know that there are sisters out there like you that are aggressive, and I mean aggressive, but are aggressive in the interest of black manhood and the interest of our race, it really, really, really resonates with brother. I don't think when brothers call up and they say they appreciate it, but I don't really think that we really express how much it really means to us. Because men don't tend to talk about how they really feel. Men more like just deal with things. But it's not that easy dealing with the person or the dynamic of the fact that what makes a man really feel like a man is that his woman loves him and supports him and believes in him. So if you got a woman that's fighting him, it completely crushes the very essence of what manhood is about to him. And there's no way to deal with that for a man except to get another woman. Because he can't undo the natural process of feeling good because his woman is supporting him and believes in him and has positive things say to him on a regular basis and builds him up. That can't be replaced either by another woman, or he just has to deal with the fact that he doesn't get that and he has to keep moving forward. But there's no way to undo the natural inclination for a man to need that. So men just tend to just suffer. And I can just say for men in this movement that I know, men tend to suffer and find a way to deal with it as opposed to what it appears that Brother David has been able to do, which is find somebody, or even like myself, I'll be able to find somebody who understands us, supports us in what we're doing, knows how we're going to be, and is engaged on some level in the same type of work and the same type of interest. It really is good for the mental state of black men in this movement, because honestly, it's going to sound real strange, and I don't want you to start thinking I'm trying to be no Barack Obama faggy or nothing, but men need some hope. I mean, I'm just being honest. No, listen, I'm dead serious. For a long time, it was the black man who was the grimy low-life, dating outside the race, dog of the race, and we still are. But black women have done what we expect. They like to catch up, and they have caught up. And at this point, black women are as bad for the race as black men are for our race. And so now black men have that same feeling that black women had in the 80s or 90s, that there's no good men out here.
Mm.
Brothers feel like there's no women out here that will support us, that a black woman who got your back and will support you and is a good-looking, decent woman who cares about herself and will love you and work with you too, that doesn't exist. And it just means a heck of a lot, even if it ain't your woman, just to hear it and hear that support is the right stuff to repair the brothers out here. So I don't want to ramble on, but I just want to say, I don't think you can measure in any way, shape, form, or capacity how much it means to black men who are doing this work to hear that they're actually black women who are in working relationships with strong black men who it is working and the women are helping and they'll vocalize the fact that things aren't right on both sides. We really appreciate it. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. I appreciate you calling in.
All right.
Peace. I swear I love that brother. He the only person to call in talking about I'm just listening, and as soon as he started running his mouth. But see, that's why I wanted him to comment, because these programs are good. I know people say it's good to hear from women about this kind of stuff because women usually don't pull, other women's cards. But at the same time, it's good to hear from brothers who are honest and will open up to us, because it makes us kind of check ourselves when you hear that sincerity and you hear, what black men are going through and what they're struggling with and the things that we do that may hurt them that we may not even know about. We don't really realize how deep it is. That also helps women to check themselves. So yes, it's good for a woman to do it, but when a man comes from a place of not just complaining, but of actual sincerity, it does a lot. So we definitely need to hear that voice. So we definitely thank the Irritated Genie for just listening in. You can listen in anytime, bro. All right, this is my other brother. Don't ask why we don't look alike. You just hating? Mind your business. What's up, brother O?
Peace. What's going on, fam?
Nothing much. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm actually on the plantation right now. I'm just listening in. I kind of got in late on the call. I heard my brother Quayle lighting it up, with some jewels like he always do.
Definitely. Did you have any comments on the whole Black Widowism thing, or you just want to keep listening in?
I think my big brother Genie, hit the nail on the head. Brothers are definitely appreciative of the fact that, a lot of the things that we may voice to sisters, coming from you means a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, coming from us is just like, oh man, these dudes are bugging, or they don't know what they're talking about, or this and that. But hearing it from a sister, like you said, in a functional relationship, where things are good, like it's a beautiful thing.
Definitely.
That's pretty much all I got,
Well, thank you so much.
As a matter of fact, wait a minute. As a matter of fact, you know what? I just want to say, for the sisters listening, I mean, even if it's not necessarily a feminist rant or something like that, I think it's important to really get a grasp of the fact that, like the brother Quayle said, when a brother isn't doing as good as he'd like to be and is striving, the worst place and the worst thing that he could hear is a disparaging word from his woman. You know what I'm saying? The worst place it could come from is from his woman.
Right.
The worst thing he could hear is something that attacks his manhood directly. You know what I mean? So sometimes it might necessarily be quote-unquote feminist, but it's definitely damaging to a brother who feels like he's trying.
Definitely.
So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that, because that happens a lot.
It does. It definitely does. And we appreciate it. Before I know you called in a little later, I told everybody, I gave you a shout out, told them that we're going to reschedule the program, but I definitely gave you your props for pimping out that forward from my book. We appreciate it.
Yeah. You know what? I was trying to get that song finished to premiere today also, but it's going to be ready in time for the show and all that. It's going to be a beautiful thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Words cannot express. It definitely balanced out the book. So thank you, and we will be talking again very, very soon. You have a good evening.
All right. Peace.
Peace. See, I told you that brother dedicated. He, at work calling in still. That's my brother. That is my brother. All right. And what he was saying was very true, that it doesn't have to be feminist, it's just negative. And that's one thing that I did talk about, again, in the book, is black men are so disrespected from everywhere. They're treated like they're nothing, like they're underclassed, like all day long in ways that we don't even think about, just constantly disrespected, constantly told that he's nothing and he's not going to do anything. He does not need to hear that from you. He needs to hear positivity from you. There's always a nice way to word things. There's always a little inspiration you can add to a conversation. It really does make a difference. I think that we really don't realize how much we need to do that. So definitely thank you to the brother for calling in. We appreciate that. All right. 4617, you're live on War on the Horizon. 4617. Okay, just listening in. Anonymous call. You're live on War on the Horizon. All right. Usually those anonymous calls are just listening in, so we will let them do that. All right. Brother Body Shots, have anything else for us?
Yes, I finally cleared my head. Thank you, sis.
You're welcome.
Hey, brother JD came on here sounding like Antoine Fisher. I need a healing. Anybody need a healing? Oh man, I'm healed. I'm looking at this thing right here. It's called the Willie Lynch letter. I'm on page 17. It says, before the breaking process, we had to be alert on guard at all times. Now we can sleep soundly. For out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes on to say, we have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the positions of the female savages. So, for all you chocolate feminists, you are standing in between us and our liberation. So, die, black feminists, die, black feminists, die.
I thought you said you were healed.
Oh, I didn't say that, did I? Hey, I had this friend, right?
Uh-huh.
And this is going back to the sister. I'm piggybacking on the sister that had called in with a question.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had anything to say about that.
Let me share this with you. I had a real good friend right here that told me this story. So, his significant other had, they master's degree and whatnot. And he had only managed in life to acquire a bachelor's degree. So, there was that little mix up there in book smarts. Maybe not in common street knowledge, but in book smarts, she had a little edge on him, a couple $1,000 worth of school loans. Okay. And they building a family together, everything's moving positive and forward, and one day he goes out and he buys a bookcase, and on his bookcase he puts up all his nationalist books and everything he's proud of, and he takes out his college degree and he puts that up, and he comes home the next day and his college degree is off to the side now, and her college degree is like front and center. You know, just smacked his off the bookcase. So yeah, it is definitely something there that's very, very sick within the black woman to want to lord over her black man with some type of weird sophistication that she got from white institutions. It's real sick. And because I am an intellectual, you know, I really can spot these chocolate feminists a mile away. I went to a dinner party, you know, not too long ago, and when I walked in, she was like she came right at me. I mean, it's like 10 people at the table. She came smack at me, like full steam ahead, right? She said, "What do you do?" I said, "I make construction." Like, I do construction, but I don't do like drills and hammers and stuff like that. I actually like wear like slacks and a button up. So I'm kind of like white collar, but I do blue collar work. And so I always lower it down or whatever. I have people underestimate me. So I was like, yeah, I'm just a dirty construction worker. So she like snickered, and then, you know, later in the conversation, I guess she thought she was talking over my head. She started using words like, you know, the black proletariat, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like right there tit for tat. And then something came up, and she started talking about Brokeback Mountain. And so I was like, oh, so I get it. So basically, I pulled her cards on the table that she was just some weird freak that was into some freakish gayness, white sex, and pretty much embarrassed her in front of everybody. But I don't know what it is about black women intellectuals that want to lord their intellect over black males. I mean, it's real sick, sis.
It is. I've seen that myself. I don't understand it because I like blue collar workers. I do not want I can't stand. I shouldn't say that because I know some white collar workers who are in the struggle and I respect them. But I don't want a white collar worker. I don't like that whole bougie house Negro attitude. Give me a blue collar worker. So that says a lot about somebody's mentality.
With S curls, you know, them brothers with S curls.
Right, you know, walk all stiff, and I hate that. I hate it. So that's something I've seen it. I can't relate to it. But shoot, let them have them. If that's what you want, go ahead. Yeah. But you're not lying. I've seen that.
I had 2 quick points though, right? Because
okay.
Another thing is, I lost one of my points. I'm just gonna go ahead to the second one. It's real sick because she destroys manhood, and deep down within her soul, she wants that relationship with a male. Now we're saying it's very, very sick. I mean, it's so sick. I just lost my appetite. I was about to eat a bean pie. I don't think I can even go in on the bean pie right now.
Just go ahead on and fast.
The black woman is now making a sexual object out of her black son.
Yeah.
It's so devious, so nefarious, it's so sick and twisted that she would destroy the black male. This is why this feminist got to die. She would destroy the black male and then move in on her son.
That's true. And destroy him too. Destroy the future. Completely. Well, thank you for calling in. We definitely appreciate it. Did you have anything else to say before we let you go?
I saw a Facebook status. I ain't lying to you. I saw a Facebook status 2 weeks ago. It was a black female who said, this my man.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about her son being born, 8 pounds, something ounces. She was like, this the new man in my life. What are we really doing here? Die, you chocolate feminist. Die. Be a widow. Die.
You know what? And I've seen that too. I have family members that do that, and I had to check it. We don't realize how sick we are, but that's definitely very sick. So on that note, before you give us any more disgusting stuff, we heard what you did last night on Jeannie's show. I'm getting you off the air because I don't know what else about to come out of your mouth. All right, peace. Yeah, we gotta start monitoring body shots because I don't know now. I don't know if y'all caught Jeannie's show yesterday, but Yeah, if you did, you know what I'm talking about. We got to watch Body Shots. We don't know what he's going to talk about, but sometimes it be stuff we don't really want to hear. It'd be funny, but it's stuff that you don't really want to hear. Not this late, because we don't want to be having no crazy dreams at night about no crazy preachers and women doing Lord only knows what. I'm not even going there. So, in closing, I had a couple things that I was going to bring up just really quick. The first thing to keep in mind is that equality is not equal. I was talking to my brother earlier, and we talked about this a little bit, that for instance, I have 2 stepdaughters. One, the younger one, she likes to be around me all the time. She tries to imitate me. She wants to cut off her perm and get natural hair. She wants to spend time with me, learn to cook, all that kind of stuff. The older one, is a little older, a little bit more mature. She wants to be off and do her own thing. She's a teenager. She's 18. She ain't really pressed. Now, if I treat them equally, I will not meet either one's needs. Because the older one, I'm going to be crowding her space and impeding her development, because she don't need all that. The younger one is not going to get the attention that she deserves. So equality is not equal. I cannot treat them equally. It would not do a service to either one of them. The same thing applies to men and women. We can't always, it's got to be equal. It's got to be equal. No, it's not going to be equal. If it was equal, it would not do either one of us a service. It has to be adjusted for the male and the female character. It's very, very important. We can't always expect everything. Well, it's like this for a man, it's going to be like this for a woman. I talked about double standards earlier, and sometimes a double standard is necessary. Just because men and women are not the same. We are not androgynous. So that's something that we need to keep in mind, that feminism, feminists and widowists throw out a lot, is inequality. Well, sometimes we need inequality. It's not always a bad thing. Another thing is talking about how we treat black men. You'd be surprised how many men come up and talk to me when I go out just because I smile and look happy. Something about the black woman now, I don't know how miserable we've gotten that we can't even smile or be polite to black men, and then we wonder why they're not approaching us or why they're not being chivalrous to us, because we're killing it. That's why. Ain't no man going to open up the door for you if it looks like you're going to cuss him out for doing it. Put a smile on your face sometimes. Sometimes that's all it needs to brighten somebody's day. A black man is having a hard day, is, walk past them. Peace, how you doing, brother? Good? All right, fine. Smile, keep walking. It doesn't have to be flirtatious. It doesn't have to be anything like that. Just common civility, common manners. We were raised better than this. I hope we were. We don't always have to be nasty and like a black man is even worth our smile. That's ridiculous. That's something that we need to work on. And I didn't even realize it until somebody told me one day, boy, I'm glad I almost ain't speak because I didn't want you to cuss me out. That's something we need to work on. It's ridiculous. And the last point, I just want to reiterate, because Brother True said this, and I think it's very effective, is to start focusing some of that energy on the cracker. We don't always have to fight each other. Our war is not with each other. Sometimes you need to focus on the white man, white woman, and let that be. There's always something that you can focus on. These people are at constant warfare with us. You gonna tell me you can't put some little petty stuff to the side and focus on the real enemy for a minute? It's always got to be the black man. It's always got to be your spouse. It's always got to be the person you're supposed to be joining with. It don't make sense. So hopefully today's show was informative. I definitely appreciate everybody calling in. I usually like to have somebody else on here. I don't know if I'm talking too much or if I'm boring y'all to death. So I thank you for calling in, letting me know that some of the information was valuable. Getting some things off your chest and asking questions. And hopefully this will just help us all get better. That's what we need to do. There's not going to be perfection, but we can get better. And we start getting better, a whole lot of problems will be solved. Again, we are not at war with each other. So stay tuned for Brother DJ. They're going over the Christian sensibility tonight. So Brother Body Shots, you might want to stay tuned for that, and just call in and go ham. Give us something to laugh at.